What's going on everyone, you're back with your boy Jono for another quick math lesson. Today we're going to have a look at writing linear relationships in a new form, the general form. So no more y is equal to mx plus c, we're looking at something different in this lesson. So the general form is just a different way to write a linear relationship with 0 on one side. So this time we're going to have x, y and the constant term all on one side, and 0 on the other side by itself. One of the reasons that we do this is it makes it much easier to substitute x and y values in because everything's on the one side. We don't have to do any solving equations or transposing to get something by itself. It's already on one side, just hanging out there. The only skill that you do need for this lesson is can you rearrange equations effectively, especially moving around terms that are variable. So what I mean by that is can you move letters as well as numbers? If you're on top of that, you're going to be sweet. So the general form, the actual formula looks like this. ax plus by plus c is equal to 0. A, b, and c are all numbers. They're going to be an actual number that you see. And x and y are just x and y, they're always going to be there. So all we need to know is that all the stuff is on one side, 0's on the other. So there are three big rules for our general form. The first one is that 0's on one side by itself. I usually put it on the right, it just looks more correct like that, but one side's going to be equal to 0. The second thing is that there can't be any fractions. We don't want any fractions with our numbers, and that's for A, B, and C. So no fractions whatsoever, only whole numbers. The last rule is that A can't be negative, so the thing with x can't be negative. If you do have a negative x, you're going to have to multiply the whole equation by -1, changing the signs of everything else to make sure that that a is positive. So the type of questions you're going to see are just something like this. Y is equal to -4/3x minus 6, and I want you to convert this to the general form. So what we're going to do is take all this stuff, the -4/3, the x, and the -6, and we're going to whip it over to the other side, leaving nothing behind. So that means I've got to do the opposite operation of both. I've got a plus 4/3x and plus 6 to get them onto the other side. So that means my new rearranged formula is 4/3x plus y plus 6 is all equal to 0. So the reason that x here is positive is because it was -4/3 and I have to plus it over to the other side. We're going to see how we can reduce our work using this little trick. Now I've got 0 on one side, that's my first rule done, but I still do have a fraction. I've got 4/3x. So 4/3 means 4 divided by 3, and I don't want that divided by 3 there anymore. So to get rid of that divided by 3, I've got to times the whole equation, absolutely everything, by 3. I'm even timesing the 0 by 3, but it's still just going to equal 0. That's one of the reasons we make this general form equal 0 on one side. So that means I've got 4x, I got rid of the 3 by multiplication, plus 3y plus 18 is equal to 0. Now I've got 0 on one side, no fractions, and my x is positive. Bang, I'm done. The first pro tip I've got for you is if you've got a denominator, just multiply everything in the whole equation by that denominator. That will get rid of the fraction for you. This does get a little bit tricky when we've got two fractions. We're going to have to multiply by the highest common factor there, but that's the first pro tip I want you to take. If there's a fraction, multiply the denominator to everything else, and you will get just whole numbers left. The second thing that I want you to look for is look at x at the very start of the equation. If it's negative, I want you to plus it over to the other side. I want you to move that. But if it's already positive, I don't want you to move it over and then have to do more maths. So if x is positive, keep it on the side by itself and move the y across, leaving nothing on the other side. Because it's an equal sign, we can just change them at the end. The reason we do this is it keeps x positive throughout the whole thing. I've seen heaps of students get to the end of the question, have a negative x, and just change it to a positive, forgetting that they've got to multiply everything by -1. So this is just a really quick thing that you can do at the start of your question, just to make it a little bit easier for yourself. So for this, I've got 3y is equal to 6/7x minus 11. Because the x is already positive, I'm going to move the 3y over to the outside, leaving 0 on the left. This means I've got 0 is equal to 6/7x minus 3y minus 11. That's my first step. Now, like our first pro tip said, I'm going to multiply everything by the denominator of the fraction, timesing everything by 7. This leaves me with 6x minus 21y minus 77, and that's all equal to 0. So because equals just means equals, I can write them in either direction. I'm just going to write this as 6x minus 21y minus 77 is equal to 0. 0 by itself, x is positive, and there's no fractions, So I know I got this right. So just really quickly, we can do it the other way. We can move x in the constant term, but we do just have to make sure we're multiplying everything by -1 at the very end. So if we do it this way, we've got -6/7x plus 3y plus 11 is equal to 0. Again, I'm going to multiply everything by that 7, so I've got -6x plus 21y plus 77. But now, because I've got -x, I've got to multiply every single term by -1. And this is where my students sometimes forget what they're doing and just turn it to a positive straight away. So if I'm multiplying everything by -1, I've got 6x minus 21y minus 77 is equal to 0, which is the same answer as before. Either way is fine. I like to just deal with positives, but if you don't want to, this way is 100% going to work for you as well. The big takeaway from this lesson is these 3 rules. One side has to be 0, no fractions, and x has to be positive at the end. It's actually kind of nice. You have a checklist to see if your answer is going to be correct, but if you just follow these steps, you're going to get these questions right every single time. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you later.